What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr Wargames, and today I am bringing you an update to Red Eyes Black Dragon. That's right, this version is actually a control version of the deck, and it's a bit of the balance in between, so you can make it more control if you want to, you can make it more aggressive if you want to, and I'll explain that as I go through it. With all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe. Getting this video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours will unlock more legacy deck updates, stuff like Blue Eyes, Harpy Ladies. We may even branch into the GX era as well. So with all of that out of the way, let's dive headfirst into the profile to show you what we've got and explain why we've got it. So we're starting off with 2 Red Eyes Black Dragon and a single copy of Dark Magician. Now, of course, my biggest issue with the Red Eyes deck in general is it's the biggest contradictory deck in existence, in my opinion. It has one of the strongest fusion spells in the form of Red Eyes Fusion, and says, but you can't do anything else apart from set a monster. And then it also has cards that say, yo, I want to be able to be normal summoned, linked off, and then search you out a card, but I can't do that if I'm unlocked with Red Eyes Fusion. It's incredibly powerful. The reason you've got a 2-in-1 is obviously Dark Magician is in here just for the Dragoon play, and then the reason I've gone with 2 Red Eyes is in this particular version, you kind of want the normal Red Eyes, because you can actually loop it around. Yes, there are 2 different names. You've got Red Eyes Black Dragon and Red Eyes B Dragon. That was just obviously because before people go, oh, it's crazy, why is there 2 different ones? It's really because it was, originally it was shortened to Red Eyes B Dragon. This is an old text. And then it was updated to actually say Red Eyes Black Dragon because a lot of cards say specifically Red Eyes Black Dragon. So that's it for the vanillas in the deck. Moving on to what is pretty much your staple starter card, and that is your Black Metal Dragon. Now, the Black Metal Dragon is actually insanely good, which is why I get utilised in Dragon Link decks as well. You get to target a Red Eyes monster. Now, massive point straight away. If you end up facing Dragon Link, or more rarely Red Eyes, it does target. So it can't be equipped to a Dragoon, keep that in mind. And keeping in mind off the back of Red Eyes Fusion, the monster that is summoned off of it does become Red Eyes Black Dragon. Very important. Again, 6 round attack, and if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to add a Red Eyes card from your deck to hand. So it's a card that can directly search out Red Eyes Fusion, but you can't use them in the same turn. So it's kind of like saying, okay, set this card, pass, hope it gets sent to the graveyard, and you still survive to search out Red Eyes Fusion. And then we've got the brand new card, Red Eyes Soul. Now this came out in Maze of Memories. It is a rare card, it's definitely worth picking up. I have gone with 2 copies rather than 3 copies. I can arguably see why you would go with 3, but annoyingly, again, it becomes Red Eyes Black Dragon while on the field or in the graveyard, which is kind of cool. It does have some nice little bits of synergy. Your opponent, if your opponent special summons a monster except during the damage step, you get to send this card from the hand or field. Annoyingly has to go to the graveyard, so you can't use this effect if you are under Rise Heart. And then if you do, you get to special summon a Red Eyes monster from your hand or deck, except Soul. Now, as good as well that is, if you realised, Black Metal Dragon is not a Red Eyes card. Red Eyes Black Dragon, of course, is a card, and then you've also got Red Eyes Darkness, you've got Red Eyes Meteor Dragon. Everything else that you kind of want to summon from this to get the most effect out of it isn't really a Red Eyes card. So it's more so one of the ones that if they special during your turn, you get a free extender in a sense. During their turn, you can put a bit of a defender up on the board, but it's not as effective as you would like it to be. Now the second effect is where Red Eyes, they're still trying to push this whole Red Eyes burn factor in a deck like this. So you can only use the effect once per turn. It does have a quick effect. You target a Red Eyes Black Dragon you control, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack. You can only use this effect once per duel, so keep that in mind. Do not think that you can try and play into time and then summon this and then use this effect if you used it in your previous turns. Now the reason it's really important that it targets a Red Eyes Black Dragon is, like I've said, off of the back of Red Eyes Fusion, something like a Meteor Black Comet Dragon, which is a 3500 base, does become Red Eyes Black Dragon, so you can use the effect of Soul to target this to burn your opponent for 3500, which is great if you're going to resolve around a card like Red Eyes Spirit. It's also kind of cool if you want to use Infernal Fire Blast, but again, Infernal Fire Blast isn't a Red Eyes card, so it's very hard to get to because you have to hard draw it. And then, of course, the other one-offs for the Red Eyes, you do have the one Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon and the one Meteor Dragon It's a bit of a shame that the only level 6 that the Red Eyes have specifically is the Meteor Dragon. However, if you want to shift this deck to be a bit more aggressive, what it will give you is it does give you a very nice capability of using the Bestials, and by doing that you can actually replace this for the Bestial and then be sending them, which is really kind of cool. So the only reason this is in here is to get into your Meteor, and then obviously the Red Eyes Darkness Metal, pretty straightforward on that one. You normal summon your Black Metal, you turn that into Striker Dragon, you search out your Red Eyes Darkness. This can then tribute off the Striker to summon itself down. It can then use its effect to, well, not tribute, banish off, to bring back a monster, and then you're instantly getting the capabilities into a Link 2. So you've got like a 1-card Link 2 into Spheres. Moving on to the next card that isn't a Red Eyes monster, and that is the Noctavision Dragon. This is just purely because it is a technically free level 7 summoner. And what I mean by that is if a Dark Dragon monster is special summoned from the field, except during now set, you get to special summon this card, which, as I've explained, if you add the Noctavision to the 1-card combo of the Black Metal Dragon, it's very easy to do. And then when this is used as Link material, you get to draw 1 card as well. So you replace the addition and go from there. And that's how it's going to be very, very easy to utilize this. Not to mention it's also a level 7 and a dark, so it has synergy with your Lore Draw power, your Sacred Swords of 7, and a level 7 to help you make rank 7 plays off the back of something like a Red Eyes and everything else. And then, of course, the final monster before we get into the Dogmatika package. Yep, spoiler, I am playing the Dogmatika package. Is Triple Ash Blossom, and then the other 2 hand traps we are playing are 2 Infinite Impermanences. Hand traps is entirely up to you. You can adapt them, play them however you wish. You can play Kaijus if you want to, because again, when you look at Raiden, Raiden is a level 7 and a dark, so it plays with more synergy of your deck. I kind of went with 2 Imperm, 3 Ash, and then my board breaking cards rather than a Kaiju was something like Book of Eclipse. It really does come down to the matchups. The reason obviously I went with Book of Eclipse than anything else is because I can activate Book of Eclipse and then still activate my Red Eyes Fusion, whereas I can't activate Red Eyes Fusion and Kaiju my opponent. As you saw in the deck as well, apart from the Black Metal, you don't really rely on a normal summon, so you could arguably look at stuff like Lava Golem. Again, the issue with that comes is that you need to have the ability of a free extender to move your plays further forward. So it's very, very tricky, this deck, and this is what I'm saying, that it's a bit of a contradiction to itself, because it's like, hey, you need to break the modernized boards, but your strongest card is going to help you do that, but it's going to be restricting you in more ways than one. And that is another thing as well, that what I've tried to do with this build is I've tried to make it balanced, whereas if I see my Red Eyes Fusion, I can roll the dice, take the risk that they either do hit it with an Ash Blossom or they don't, and then I'm able to push for game. But also, if I fear the Ash Blossom, I have a lot of cards that can try and bait them out, which is why I'm playing stuff like the Allures, the Sacred Swords of 7s, and everything else. Quite like my Dark Magician videos, I do play the Nadir package. I just think that this is probably one of the strongest control packages you can play if your deck is utilising Red Eyes Fusion. And the reason it is so important is for the pure fact that Nadir Servant can be activated after you've activated Red Eyes Fusion, which is absolutely fine. And in doing so, it will send a Shaddoll monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. Especially when your deck is dark based, whether it be Red Eyes or Dark Magician, that's how you can utilize a card like Shaddoll Schism, which will also be allowed to provide your end board with something like a Meteor Black Comet Dragon and a Winder, or Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and a Winder. So you kind of get your ability to control your opponent as max potentials, and on the benefit of that, you can also search out the Fleur as a free summon during your opponent's turn or during your turn to confirm the OTK that next turn. Because keep in mind, when this declares an attack, it will go up to 35, and then you would have already searched out your Ecclesia, so then you can special summon the Ecclesia during your next turn. Even though you're under Winder, Winder cannot attack directly, and you do get 1 special summon. Dragoon can use his effect to clear off the board, and then you're attacking in for 2k with Ecclesia, 3k with your Fleur, and then 3k with your Dragoon, or 4k if it's already negated a card. Not to mention as well, Nadir Servant can be utilised going second. Yes, it's a little bit more restrictive, but it's one of them ones where it's like, right, well, if my Dragoon can kill off 2 of my opponent's monsters and burn them with enough damage, that all I need to do is get rid of 1 card, I can then activate Nadir Servant, send Natis, Natis gets rid of that 1 card, Dragoon goes in direct and finishes the game off as well. So it does give you that very nice shift of being able to be a go first card and a go second card. Obviously more successful going first, and it does utilise a brick, but it is one of them ones that if you do resolve it correctly, it pretty much gives you an auto win capability. Moving on to spell cards, probably the best card for Red Eyes, bar Red Eyes Fusion, is a card that can search Red Eyes Fusion, and that is triple Red Eyes Insight. So this one is you send a Red Eyes monster from your hand or deck, which is probably what you're going to want to do more times than not, so it's a nice Foolish Burial, to add a Red Eyes spell or trap from your deck to the hand except itself. You can only use or only activate one Red Eyes Insight per turn. So what does Insight search? Well, it does, of course, search you out your Red Eyes Fusion, which is your most powerful individual card. Keeping in mind that this came out in Invasion of Venom, and the Red Eyes Fusion originally, let me just get my original copy so I can get the exact, came out in Core, which I think was like, it wasn't Crossroads of Chaos, but basically it was a set for about 3 or 4 years ago. So they're a little bit more on the slower sense, which is why they're designed the way they are. The only other card that we are searching off of the Red Eyes Insight is the Red Eyes Spirit, and this is purely just one of them ones where if you've already got Red Eyes Fusion, or you've already conducted a normal summon or anything else, so you can't activate the Red Eyes Fusion, you go for Spirit, and that's how Spirit can help you utilize something along the lines of the double burn, with the fact of you got your Meteor Black Comet Dragon, which is going to burn your opponent for 1250, and then you have the ability of Spirit to target a soul in the graveyard, bring this back, and then burn for 3500. Keep in mind it's very easy because you go Red Eyes Fusion, you send your Red Eyes Soul, and then you send your Meteor Dragon, and then straight away that's going to give you the ability of Meteor Black Comet to burn, and then you activate the Spirit to bring back, and then you burn your opponent for another 3500. So it's how you can put on a lot of damage in a single turn. Just keep in mind that the Spirit is a once per duel, not a once per game or anything like that. It's a once per duel. So it's something to be aware of if you ever face this deck. And then for the draw cards, I've gone with Triple Allure just because it's the one that has the less reliance. Like, I can activate Allure with an empty hand, I can activate Allure and risk it. I've got a lot of darks in the deck. In comparison to Sacred Sword as well, which is a hard once per turn, you have to have the level 7 in the hand, so you have to be able to banish it and kind of go from there. So this is a nice little draw engine. You can play more specific Red Eyes ones, like the cards of the Red Stone, but by doing stuff like that, because that specifically says send a level 7 Red Eyes, it's like, well, you're better off going for a generic card, and that's when the side deck of the Raiden Kaiju can come into play. Level 7, Dark, it matches both of these descriptions, so that if you go first, or if you see multiples of it, rather than, you could Kaiju and then summon your Kaiju yourself, but you do have the ability to kind of utilize both the draw spells. And then the last 3 cards that we are playing in the main deck is, of course, 2 Return of the Dragon Lords and 1 Call by the Grave. Now, the reason the Return of the Dragon Lords is kind of cool is the sense that, annoyingly, it can't be used the turn you activate Red Eyes Fusion, but it does give that ability to bring back specifically at level 7 or 8, which is how you can get access to bring back another Red Eyes. You can go into more of your rank plays after the back of that. It can bring back the Comet Dragon, as Comet Dragon is an 8 as well, and that is a 3500 boss monster. But it's the additional effect that it does have in the graveyard, where if it would be destroyed, if a dragon type monster or monsters, so all of them, would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you get to banish it from the grave instead. So it's kind of a nice little ability to have the protection. Yes, you can put Monster Reborn in if you want to. It is entirely an optional card. It's not something that you must play, but it is just something to be wary of. And then obviously Call by the Grave, because if you are sacky enough to see it, you can stop stuff like Ash Blossom as well. You could play Crossout Designator if you want to make sure your Red Eyes Fusion resolves at its max potential, or has the max potential to resolve. That's entirely up to you. Another alternative engine that you could play if you wanted to take out Return of the Dragon Lords, if you wanted to take out the Meteor, and you wanted to take out the Nadir, would be a Bestial engine. I'm just going to show you like the basics of what you could play. My personal ratios would be pretty much one of all of the lower ones, so the Druid Swarm, the Saronir, and the Baldrake, and then probably 2, if not 3, of the Magnamoots, 2, if not 3, of the Lubellions. You're not locking yourselves into Darks or anything, and then of course you've got the Regained, which is going to give you constant draw power and recyclability, and then Beast, because it's just a very, very powerful back row that's constantly popping off your Bestials. Ideally you want to be getting rid of your Druid Swarm, because then that gives you a pop and a send. So it is an option that you can trial out. It's just when you look at the cost of a Bestial engine compared to a Dogmatika engine, obviously one's a little bit cheaper than the other, but it's entirely up to you. That's your aggressive route, and then the one that I've shown you is the defensive route. Moving on to the extra deck, we'll go over the Link monsters first. So the Link monsters are pretty standard on this one. The Striker Dragon, the Spheres, and the BLS. Purely because you play a lot of high levels, so BLS is very easily made. Spheres is obviously the generic dragon card that is so good of a non-target bounce, and a Summon a Dragon from the deck, which can bring you out your black metal and go from there. And then of course Striker Dragon, like I said, is black metal into Striker Dragon, nice and easy. You've got your dragon on the board. You could play, so there's a couple of cards I haven't chosen to play. Red Eyes Wyvern, I'm not the biggest fan of that because it has to trigger during your end phase and it's special summons, it doesn't add. If it added, you'd go, oh, cool, activate Red Eyes Insight, send it, and then you could search out a Red Eyes Fusion for the next turn as well. The boot set to launch, again, I'm not playing much of a rocket engine. I wanted to try and keep it focused around Red Eyes, and that's kind of the reason that I went the way I did. Moving on to the XYZs, we've got 2 Red Eyes Flare Metal. Now, keep in mind, because we're in the Cash Tier format, all of the cards I'm about to show you, I'm only going to be showing you what you would want to be running them at. And if you are worried about the cash ones, you do have flex spots where you can double up certain aspects, and I'll tell you what cards you can double up or what you should be doubling up. The Red Eyes Flare, in my opinion, is the only one that you would want to double up generally, whether you're in a cash format or not, purely because you can actually resolve both of these. Being able to burn your opponent and the ability to revive a normal Red Eyes just allows you to continue to make different rank 7 plays. The other rank 7s that we are playing is the one Big Eye Dark Arm Dragon. You can actually play Rise Heart. Rise Heart is kind of a very interesting one, especially when you've got something like your Noctivision plus a Red Eyes, and then you've also got other ways of special summoning with the Return of the Dragon Lords and everything else. You can make your own Rise Heart. It's a very nice capability of being able to target Banish a card and put your opponent under a macro. So in the right matchups, it could be a card that you would want to go for more over some other ones. And then of course you've got the one Zeus, just because XYZ is clear board, you know, yay. Moving on to the fusions, so I'll go over the Shaddoll ones first and then I'll go over the Red Eyes fusion targets. So for the Shaddoll ones, I am doing my standard double Winder and single App Cologne. Now, apologies for all the different sleeves, they're in just different decks at the moment in time. I haven't physically played the Red Eyes one, this is just a concept I build. I prefer to physically build them when I have the cards. I feel it looks better than a digital list online, which is why they're all different sleeves, so apologies for that one. So the reason I've got double Winder is because a lot of people might consider you to go summon a single Winder and then they go, oh, okay, well, I don't need to get rid of the Schism anymore. There's no way they're going to be making another Shaddoll card. And then you go, okay, cool, during my turn, Schism, banish the Winder that you've just cleared off, plus another Dark Monster from the graveyard, summon out a second Winder. You've got the space in here. You can cut Winder down to 1 if you want to. So that's one of your flex options. And the Tis is just another option off the Dear Servant. And just to be clear, so everyone knows how it works, the Dear Servant will send the App Clone as its 2500 attack. You can search out the Fleur, or you can search out the Ecclesia, and then the App Clone effect lets you search out or add a Shaddoll card from the deck. So you add the Schism, discard a card, and then build on from there. And then the 2 cards you're going to be summoning off of your 2 copies of Red Eyes Fusion is Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, pretty standard and simple on that one, and then of course your Meteor Black Comet Dragon. It's a real shame that the Red Eyes Fusion old style targets are very generic. Even Dragoon's pretty generic, pretty specific in the sense that this needs to have Dark Magician and then a Dragon monster. Whereas this one needs to have a Red Eyes monster and specifically a level 6 dragon, not level 6 or lower, specifically level 6. And then the other ones you have the Slash Dragon, which requires a warrior, and then you have, which you can very easily play as well if you want to. And then you also have the Archfiend one, which is kind of cool, but it's a bit old school retro Archimedes style. When you declare an attack, your opponent cannot activate cards effects until the end of the damage step. Whereas these 2 are your best options. You've got your Burn one with the 3500 boss, and then of course you've got Dragoon, which is Dragoon. It's just incredibly powerful. Discard a card, negate a card, gain £1,000, gain 1,000 attack points. God, can you imagine if Red Eyes Dragoon was just like, yeah, negate, gain £1,000, making money. And yeah, just untargetable, undestructible. It is what a boss monster it needs to be, and the artwork is, you know, absolutely stunning. So, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is it for the profile. Like I said, I tried to take a different angle from this. A lot of profiles that I did the research on just didn't really tick the Red Eyes box for me, in my opinion. There were a lot of played a lot of Chaos cards. It was like, oh, we're playing like 4 Red Eyes cards and then Chaos cards. So I wanted to kind of make sure that I was playing a acceptable amount of Red Eyes cards. I didn't want to be playing, you know, oh look, I've got 4 Red Eyes cards. It's technically a Red Eyes deck. That is not the case. I'm actually playing, I'm pretty sure, like 20 Red Eyes cards, which does, I say, take the majority of the deck. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like I said at the start of the video, if you want to see more Legacies decks from, of course, the original Yu-Gi-Oh anime, you've got stuff like Gate Guardian that we can look into again. We've also got Harpies, Blue Eyes, Dark Magician that gets done loads, Zombies as well is a very cool option. I really want to do Barrel Dragons, but I don't have all of the cards, and go from there. And then if you actually have a suggestion for a different Legacy deck, or just a deck in general that you want to see, then by all means, please put them on the comments down below, and I'll be more than happy to look into them for you. But as absolutely always, guys, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.